How many of you guys know what the agency 7 is? Okay, so if you don't, you should look up 7. It's amazing. It's kind of like it's like Magnum. Like when it first started, it was James Noctman and like 6 other people, and they were called 7. Like who else was in there? Marcus Bleedsdale, I think, or something like that. Like it was just amazing. Like the 7 best photographers in the world, a lot of them were war photographers, and so I sent my portfolio in, because you have to send a print portfolio in. I sent it in my like print box, and when I got it back in a 7 box, and it was like branded 7, and on the front it said 1 of 7. And I was like, all 7 photographers applied for this? Had I known that, I probably wouldn't have applied. But I was like, oh, I'm definitely not getting this job. But the cool thing about it is that the Global Fund took a chance on 6 unknown photographers and 6 Magnum photographers to do the coverage for that next year. Probably because the 6 of us were cheaper, let's be real. But that's cool, I got my foot in the door, and I got to go, and this is my one like learning lesson for the day for you guys. I went to Bolivia, and I photographed tuberculosis in Bolivia for a week. I photographed for 3 days out of 7 because I went with a writer, and the writer controlled the schedule, and I was so green that I let the writer control the schedule, and that's why you're not going to see any of the photographs, because they were horrible, because we ended up getting in these like terrible photo situations, great for the writer, terrible for me. And I went out for sushi with Steve McCurry in New York, and Steve was like, what? No, and he had just come back from doing his part for the Global Fund in Vietnam, and he was like, never let the writer run the show. And I was like, okay. And so I was going to Africa anyway, and I said I could go to Uganda and cover some of those programs. I'll extend my trip. And so I extended, and I'm like, give me another chance, really is what I was saying. And I got to go cover all of these amazing job training programs for orphans, for AIDS orphans. So they were really wonderful. I went to group homes where, I always use this as an example. Like, documentary photography doesn't have to be sad. It really doesn't. It doesn't have to be black and white, first of all, and it doesn't have to be depressing. Like documentary, I have been in some of the worst hellholes that this world has ever created with some of the most poor people in the world, and inevitably somebody is smiling. Some teenagers are making out in the corner. They still fall in love. People still find joy. And I think that it's really important that we remember that when we go into other cultures and when we photograph other people and people who are in some of the worst situations of their lives maybe, you still want to try to find that hope, and you still want to try to find the joy. And you need to show need, of course, because I think it's important, but you can also just find really beautiful people who are really trying to make a change. And that's really important.